Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. It's one of those crazy days. I mean, it's interesting because before I get started, and by the way, we may have somebody call in from the protest that's occurring in Arizona with the teachers' protests that are demanding new laws. I think she should be calling in if she gets a chance, being out there in the field at the Capitol in Arizona. But anyhow, interesting tweet that Donald Trump put out there, and let's see if I still have it here. He said, and this is interesting, it seems like he's getting ready to act, folks. It seems like we are going to have to get ready to be, those of you with Indivisible, Swing Left, and all these other organizations, it is almost time for you to get ready for what we may have to do. Here's the last tweet from the president. A rigged system. They don't want to turn over documents to Congress. What are they afraid of? Why so much redacting? Why such unequal justice? At some point, I will have no choice but to use the powers granted to the presidency and get involved. Do we understand what Trump is trying to tell America? First of all, it was a plan laid out between Trump and that caucus, the Freedom Caucus in Congress, and the idea being request documents they know that they cannot get from that they cannot really get from the Justice Department. When they don't get those documents, they go ahead and they create articles of impeachment against the acting attorney general. And when that occurs, that gives the president a reason to be able to say, well, since Congress is holding him in contempt or filed articles of impeachment, that gives me a reason to get rid of, yes, the acting attorney general. That is not going to be taken, or that will not occur without people being on the streets, and they are active, they are ready to do that. So folks, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I'm not sure, but it seems to me like things are getting ready to come ahead, and I think they have to come ahead because as that investigation comes closer, and by the way, we are not going to be talking about Russia. I just wanted to bring you up to date on that particular thing because you know my tenet right here is they want you all concentrated on Russia as they continue to decimate our system. But folks, before I get started, you know how I start the show. I want to ask everybody, I need to ask you to go ahead and share this. If you're listening right now, please share this program on your wall right now on Facebook. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, please be sure to go ahead and tweet this program, put it on not only on Twitter, put it on Instagram, put it on Tumblr, everywhere that you can, but specifically on Facebook Live, go ahead, or on Facebook, go ahead and put it on your wall. If you also have a page, put it on your page. Remember, this is how we are going to get the progressive message out, the message that is being denied a lot of our fellow citizens by the mainstream media because they're so concentrated on issues not related to the middle class, on issues not related to the working America, but on simply issues that are concerned with bringing ratings. Oh, what's going on with Trump today? Oh, what's going on with Trump tomorrow? Oh, what is Trump going to do? Notice I did also start my program with Trump, but that is just because this is really a breaking news that the Donald says he is likely to get involved with the Justice Department and get rid of Rubenstein, or I forgot his name. That is news, and that's an issue. Anyhow, what is the program about today? Oh, we go there again. I have to do it. Every time it occurs, I have to do it I know some of you are going to say, didn't you do the tax cut scam program before? Yeah. And today we're going to talk more about the tax cut scam. And not only are we going to talk about the tax cut scam, we'll probably talk about it over and over again throughout the year because it is that important. And the fraud that has occurred is that important, folks. And we have to be able to go out there and let people know exactly what happened. Again, folks, please do remember, if you're just signing in, go ahead and please share this program on your wall. We need this program shared on your wall. We need this program shared to ensure everybody listens to it because we have a whole lot of good stuff to cover. Before I get started, my first ask of the day, and it's going to be a short one. Please, folks, as you know, this is a progressive show that needs your support. So please consider being a subscriber to Politics Done Right. Go to patreon.com/politics done right. That's Patreon/ let's repeat that. patreon.com/politics done right. Very important that we support progressive media. Okay, let's get on to the show now. Title of the show. The title of the show is The Republican Trump Tax Cut Scam is Worse Than You Thought. For those that are just coming in, please do remember to share this program on your wall. We so need you to help us make sure that our message is played throughout the internet because it's not covered by our mainstream media. It's interesting today, there is a particular, and I'm going to get to the program in a minute, but I just want to say one thing. There's a particular email that I get several times a day, and it has to do with healthcare. All the time, several times a day, and they're blasting this email out to people. I imagine their email mailing list is probably pretty huge. But as you know, when you send out large email lists, eventually people tune you out. We have a large email list that we send out as well. And we can get an idea of how many people open the emails and so forth. And you can see if there's a big issue occurring, you'll see a lot of people open the emails. But if it's not a very large a time when a whole lot is happening, a lot of times those emails go unanswered. So today, I got an email from this company, this organization that has a website attached to their email list. And I simply asked a simple question, and that was, hey, can I go ahead and duplicate your material on our site? Because what I found with your material, it is very informative, and a lot of people don't get to see it. The response was immediate. Yes, go do it. We want this information out there. So you'll see a whole lot more of their information on our website, both on singlepayerhealthcarenow.com and on egbertowillies.com. So you'll be hearing about it's one of those Medicare advocate or healthcare advocacy type groups. Anyhow, title of the show: The Republican Trump tax cut scam is worse than you thought. Subtitle: The Republican Trump tax cut scam screwed the American worker and the middle class. Folks, I know you have heard before. You have heard this before, but it is all too real now. The problem is that it is not that a few are making a killing off of the Republican Trump tax cut scam. It is that it is materially hurting every middle class American's personal economy. That is the real problem. The middle class tax cut, or the tax cut scam, it's not that it's helping a whole lot of people and we are envious that it helped all those rich people. The problem is that it will affect you directly. It will affect your personal economy. It will make your life harder because of what they did. And it is our job to somehow help people understand that and not buy the hype, but understand it. And in so doing, be able to force politicians, let's continue with that, right? Today we discuss the actual effects of the pilfer, of this theft. We will discuss what we must do to mitigate the fraud. And it is twofold. The fraud, folks, it's twofold. It's twofold what we have to do. It involves a massively explaining the theft. We have to massively explain the theft to the average citizen in a manner personalized to their lives. In other words, it's not enough to just say, hey, all this money is going to the rich. Okay, we know that. The rich, all the money always goes to the rich. But does it actually affect people? Does it actually make a difference to people in such a manner that it makes their lives harder. The truth is, yes, that is the case. And what we have to do as progressives, what we have to do, or those of you who are listening to this program, by the way, if you're just coming onto the program, share this program now on your wall. Please share this program on your page, tweet this program, because that's how we get people to know this information. But like I mentioned before, what we must do is tie people's angst, tie people's difficulties, tie what people are going through with how this tax cut scam materially did it. That is the first thing that we have to do. The second is to extract from politicians seeking our vote the demand that they will repeal the tax cut scam and more. In other words, yes, we want them to repeal the tax cut scam, but it's much more than repealing the tax cut scam. There's a whole lot of recovery that must occur. There's a hell of a lot more that has to occur because we've been pilfered for so long. We've been screwed for so long. They've taken for so long. It's going to take a while to actually recover all that was lost since the inception of trickle-down economics, which started back in 1980 with this great hero of the right called Ronald Reagan. He is responsible for decimating much of the American middle class. And recovering that is not going to happen in 1 year. It's not going to happen in 5 years. It's been going on since 1980. What is that, 38 years? Did I get my math right? 1980 to 38 years. That is what we are going to have to mitigate, and it's going to take some time, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start walking, and that is what we are here for. The problem is that these different institutes have been so good in making people believe that somehow what we must do, what those of us progressives are demanding, they want to make it believe that we are the folks looking for something for free. They make it look as if that's what's going on. That is far from the case, but we'll cover that going forward. But anyway, from the news feed, folks, from Politico, former Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price Wednesday walked back comments about how Republican efforts to undo Obamacare's individual mandate would increase costs for people who remain insured, saying that his remarks were reported out of context. He said, repealing individual mandate was exactly the right thing to do. Forcing Americans to buy something they don't want undermines individual liberty as well as free markets, Price said in a statement. Folks, the problem with insurance is they like to sell it as a product. In this type of capitalism, they want to convert everything into a product. Insurance, listen to me, folks. When they talk about why buy something you don't need, insurance is not a product. Insurance is a service, and not only a service, it's a service of personal risk management. What that means is, let me tell you how silly why people don't understand insurance, health insurance. Let's say I buy health insurance only when I need it. Okay, I am going to buy health insurance this year because sometime later on this year, I'm going to have, let's say, foot surgery. That foot surgery is going to cost let's say $25,000 based on our inflated medical cost. And I bought a plan that costs $2,000, $1,000 a month. That's $12,000. It'll never, ever pay for. You can never treat it as a product that says, I'll go buy insurance so that it can take care of a surgery, so it can take care of something. Insurance is a risk management thing. It says all of us put a whole bunch of money into the pool. We understand that everybody isn't going to get sick at the same time, and all the money in that pool is used just for the people who get sick. That's not a product. That's a procedure. That's a service. And everybody have to be in for it to make sense. It's not something that you buy sometimes and you don't buy when you don't want it. And that is the ignorance with which this stuff is being sold by these politicians. The ignorance of these politicians, and I say the ignorance of the politicians, they're not ignorant. What they really want to do is they want it to be sold as a product, but as a useless product. In other words, I want to sell an insurance. Yeah, I may use it, but I may put an exclusion there that says, oh, you can't use it for 5 years. You can't, if you take this insurance, you can't fix your leg for, I'll exclude your leg. Those are the days of the past when the insurance companies just collected money from folks with the expectation that they will never have to pay it out. And that's what we're talking about. Anyway, continuing with that story. Price said in his statement, the only fair and effective way to bring down healthcare costs is to allow markets to create more choices for consumers and small businesses. Healthcare is anti-market. Healthcare does not work in the market because you don't have free will, free choice. Healthcare, and you know what what is so funny about that is we don't have to ask the question whether healthcare is better handled via the market. The answer is already there. Healthcare has always been market-based in the United States of America, the private portion that is, and it has always failed. And all the other industrialized countries in the world have learned their lessons from a failed system, and they have fixed it. Everybody I know in Canada, in Great Britain, in France, in all these other countries that have a single payer system or a Medicare for all type system, not one of them would trade their systems for the ones that we have in America. What we have in America is an immoral system, a system based on greed that uses one's health as a commodity to pilfer the people to make a profit for a few. That is the medical system that we have. The reason we have an opioid epidemic is that we have a portion as well of our health system that decides that it wants to sell drugs at all cost, and in so doing has determined that Appalachia and many other parts of this country make great test beds or great beds to dump their drugs, to dump their drugs. So what we have are drug companies that are effectively drug pushers. Nothing more, nothing less. They are drug pushers. I mean, if they're no different than that Superfly drug pusher in the ghetto. They're just pushing it throughout the entire country, and they just happen to be doing it with the sanction of the state. Please remember that, folks. Please remember that. Continuing with the news of the day. Price told the World Health Care Congress on Tuesday that repealing the Obamacare mandate as a part of the GOP's tax overhaul will harm insurance markets because younger and healthier people would be likelier not to buy coverage, raising prices for others. The answer to that is simple. It's called math. If young people figure, you know what, I am not going to get any serious illness, why do I have to buy insurance? You have to buy insurance because it's a social good. Because that is what, and in fact, I don't even believe in buying insurance. I believe it should have come out of the general revenue. You just pay taxes and it comes out, but that's for another day. But he was right the very first time. Math says, basic arithmetic says, if you remove all those people from the healthcare rolls, that the prices have to go up. And guess what? Americans will see that in October, and they will have, and I've written several blogs about the exact causes of the rise in their healthcare costs that they will see in October. Folks, let your people know this. Their rates are going to be going sky high in October, and the reasons are, one, because less people enrolled because it was not advertised. President Trump cut the budget by 90% or so for teaching people how they can get covered by insurance. So that means less people are going to be insured. If less people are insured, the prices go up. Number two, he went ahead and he killed the mandate, which means less people again are going to be in. By killing the mandate, what he did is he said, well, you don't have to buy insurance, and the young people are likely not going to buy insurance, which is going to raise the price up further. And thirdly, there within the Affordable Care Act, there were provisions to help, because everybody has to be accepted. For those companies that got unlucky and accepted a whole lot of sick people, there were provisions in the bill to pass that cost on from a pool of money that the government gave to these other companies to offset that increase in pricing. That's gone, if I recall correctly. So there are several different options that were there to sort of mitigate the price of insurance. It's gone. And now Americans are going to see what sabotaging of the Affordable Care Act. They couldn't kill it, but they sure can make it work very poorly. And that's what they've done. What I've been telling progressives all along is this story needs to be told. Americans need to be prepared so that when they open their new bills, when they see what the plans are that they'll have in October, that they know why it will cost them that much more. It is important not only for me to say it, is it important for you to know it? It is important for you to share it. It is important for you to tell all of your friends, your neighbors, your families, etc., that the reason these prices are and will skyrocket is a direct responsibility of what the Trump administration has done to the Affordable Care Act. That is a must, folks. Continuing with the story, then we'll go to the blog of the week. Okay. And it continues. It says Obamacare supporters immediately pounced on the remarks, which marked a significant break from GOP orthodoxy on the health law and stunned some congressional Republicans and the Human Health Services staffers. Price, a former Georgia congressman who served as President Donald Trump's first HHS secretary for roughly 7 months, repeatedly opposed the Obamacare mandate while in those roles. The Congressional Budget Office previously estimated that repealing the requirement that most Americans obtain health insurance or pay a penalty will raise premiums on average by 10%. Remember, folks, this is 10% above all the other conditions that Trump imposed that further increases the price. So remember, we're not talking about a 10% increase in insurance. We're talking about a much larger increase in insurance, not caused by anything other than what this president has done. So we have to make sure that Americans know this. It is imperative that we make sure that Americans learn this. But folks, do you know what time it is? Do you really know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, the weekly blog post. It's not, how should I say this? Every so often I find a blog or a posting that I find is very, very important because, again, it's already written, important, and I give it exposure, and in so doing as well, read it for you guys and explain it as I go along because it is very important. The title of the show today was about the tax cut scam. The title of the blog of the week is Corporations to Give Obscene $1 trillion tax cut to investors, not workers. And if you're following the blog of the week, what I have up there is a picture with the president, with the president or the chairman of Apple with two hands out there filled with cash, because it was a windfall. It was a windfall for corporations, folks. It was a windfall for corporations. Anyhow, Apple announced today it will spend listen to me. By the way, if you're just coming in, folks, please remember to share this show on your wall. Please share this show on your wall now so that folks can understand what we're doing here. But anyhow, Apple announced Tuesday it will spend $100 billion buying back its own stock, 333 times the amount it has spent on one-time worker bonuses. Repeat, 333 times. That is a 33,000%, okay, increase on supposed bonuses people receive. That is what they did. This is after telling Americans, oh, the tax cut scam was really good for you. Anyhow, as even one member of the Republican Party was forced to admit earlier this week, President Donald Trump $1.5 trillion tax cut has done virtually nothing for the vast majority of American workers. But evidence continue to roll in that it has been a massive boon for corporations. And what I want to do is I want to read what I think it's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio said the following, or rather, Bernie Sanders immediately tweeted, "Trump's tax bill was a scam from the very beginning. We have got to hold Republican leaders accountable for deceiving Americans about giving massive tax breaks to the wealthy." But the biggest part about this is Marco Rubio, what Marco Rubio said. Because this was a retweet by Sanders of what Marco Rubio said. Rubio said, "No evidence that GOP corporate tax cut is overwhelmingly benefiting workers." Wait a minute. Didn't Marco Rubio vote for it? He sure did. Marco Rubio voted for the tax cut scam, but you see, he wants to keep his base, who are starting to realize that he ripped them off for the corporation. He ripped them off for the corporation. Continuing. According to new data compiled by S&P Dow Jones Indices, America's biggest and most profitable companies are on track to hand a record $1 trillion to investors through dividend increases and stock buybacks. Okay. So, the average American worker is going to go out there, work with their hands, put their body at risk, get up every morning, work. They potentially pay up to 35% or more of their income in taxes, but they're not getting anything back like that. But the guy that is sitting down on his pool who decided to just give some money to buy a couple of stocks, he is going to partake of a large portion of that $1.5 trillion. Who is this tax cut for again? I thought it was for the middle class. No, it's not. And that is how we have to explain this to our friends or foes, our families, etc. The person who is going out there to work gets no break, if any, because we'll tell you where some of that break is going to end up anyway. But the person who simply bought a couple of stocks while sitting at home watching TV, sitting at their pool, they get most of that money that we are borrowing to give them. All right. According to new data, I told you that already. A major example of companies using their tax savings to buy their own stock instead of boosting investments or giving workers raises came on Tuesday when Apple, the love of the life of many people, Apple, announced it would be spending $100 billion on buybacks, which the New York Times report is by far the largest increase in its already historic record of returning capital to investors. Wow. It has never, ever in the history of Apple had $100 billion to just say, here, investors, take $100 billion. But, it's deeper than that. I want you guys to see the scale of this. Apple is one corporation. And they will be given back $100 billion. Folks, that is a large that is the kind of money you don't think of as company money. You think of as, those are the kinds of money you think of. $100 billion makes a difference in the federal budget. We're talking about a percentage of the U.S. Somebody that's listening for me, tell me what the budget is for this year. I don't know what it is, because I want to know what $100 billion is as a percentage of our, not gross domestic product, but as a percentage of our budget. So somebody look that up for me, please. That is very important. I want to put this into some context. I should have done that before the show, but I didn't. So let me continue. This is more proof that the Trump tax scam was never meant to benefit workers. ATF tweeted on Tuesday, it was designed to benefit the wealthy, rich CEOs, and big corporations. Folks, we've been saying that, but we say it so much that it sounds like cliches. The good thing about that, however, is we now have the numbers and we can point to you and say, hey, this is what's happening. But we have one other step where we need to go. Because still it's not enough to just tell folks, all right, here are the numbers. We have to tell them how it materially affects them. After I read the blog, I'll tell Americans how it materially affects them in many different areas, right? Because that is what you need to know. You need to know if we didn't have the tax cut, we could have done this. If we didn't have the tax cut, we could have done that. If we didn't have the tax cut, we would not have had this particular bill. Okay, so what happened? For Tax Fairness tweeted, this is more proof that the Trump tax cut was never meant to benefit workers. It was designed to benefit the wealthy rich CEOs. Then Apple has just announced, well, that's when they announced what Apple has done. Tax reform could have transformed, and this is what Senator Bob Casey then tweeted. He said, tax reform could have transformed the lives of working families and children. Instead, the GOP tax law is allowing big corporations to funnel obscene amounts of money to wealthy shareholders. True. But you know, people get tired of hearing that all of the times. They know that the rich gets everything. But the thing that they don't know or they don't realize that it can make a difference. But they first have to realize how it's affecting them. How does it really affect you? How does it really affect you? And that is what we want to talk about. But before we talk about that, let me finish the blog. Okay. Apple's announcement comes on the heels of a slew of giddy profit reports by Wall Street banks. And if you remember, I did a show on that where it was not Morgan Stanley, but where it was, which was that? Not Morgan Stanley. What was that big one? Anyway, the big investment bank that I can't remember their name right now. Anyway, Apple's announcement comes on the heels of a slew of giddy profit reports by Wall Street banks, which have already raked in billions thanks to the tax cut, or the Trump GOP tax cut. So they already raked in billions. Continuing. Contrary to repeated promises from Republicans and the Trump administration that the tax law would spur a wave of new investments, the Times reported on Monday that hard evidence of a massive investment boost has yet to appear. While there is plenty of evidence that companies are following Apple's lead and dumping their tax savings into the pockets of ultra-wealthy executives, we know what has occurred. Trump and the GOP lawmakers said the huge corporate tax cuts were going to be rocket fuel to increase corporate investments, wrote author and Labor Secretary Stephen Greenhouse on Tuesday. So far, the tax cuts have been rocket fuel for just one thing, a surge in tax buybacks, making the rich even richer. So we've made the rich even richer. Cliche again, cliche, but as usual, an absolute truth. And the thing about it, folks, is what are we going to do about it? What can we do about it? A lot of people are just resigned into believing that they don't have recourse, right? A lot of people think, well, you know, that's just how things are. One of the reasons for having a show like Politics Done Right and, you know, other shows like, or having rags like the Daily Kos Op-Ed News, Democratic Underground, or the Majority Report, and several other of these programs, is that we are trying our best. Okay, Bruce, thank you for that amount. Here's the deal. The total budget, according to Bruce Pollard, thank you so kindly for finding that, Bruce, is $3.8 billion. That's our total budget. In other words, the entire budget of the United States is $3.8 trillion. $3.8 trillion. I want you guys to see the scope of this stuff, folks. Apple brought back into the country to give away, or it's given away free money, $100 billion to stockholders. Folks, according to Bruce's calculation again, and thank you, that's 2.5% of the entire American budget. In other words, we're talking military, healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, veterans benefit. The entire American budget is $3.8 billion. One company, remember, America has millions of companies. This one big major corporation will give away what is equivalent to 2.5% of the American budget. One company. Folks, the extreme of the inequities, the extreme of the inequality, the extreme of the income inequality and the disparity that we're talking about is huge. And the average American cannot see that. It is our job to let them see that, because they can only fight for Americans will only fight if they see a huge injustice that is materially affecting them now. And that not only it's a material injustice, but that it is actually theft. In this case, legal theft. Get it? I understand. If I buy a politician, I can make sure that I can make sure that something that would otherwise be illegal be legal just by writing it into the law. That's the definition of a law. The problem is that Americans don't understand how successful the country is based on their labor, based on their intellect, that just a few are able to monetize and take advantage of. And it is our job, and it's a hard job, because people are busy, because people don't like politics. People don't want to fight in politics. A lot of folks don't want to do that. They get home from work, they're tired. They want to turn on something that is going to make them smile, make them laugh. But the thing about it is, what they don't understand many times is the reason they're so tired, the reason they don't have the time, the reason they can't go on that vacation, the reason they can't take care of their family, the reason they have to have 3 jobs is because they're not getting into the politics that is materially affecting their own economy, their personal economy. And that is why we have to tailor this message to each individual sector in this economy, to each individual. To that guy or that woman who's working at CBC or working at any one of those investment banking places, and they're making minimum wage. We have to let them know that that company could not exist without them. And for only the VPs that sell stocks are able to make the big bucks from the profits from just moving paper is not right. And they are deserving of sharing that wealth. But they have to fight for it. And they have to make it known that, I tell you what, if you don't go into work, if all the secretaries, all the low-level employees, the mail clerk, and all these guys don't go into work, what do you think happens? They can't function. So how comes they make the mega monies and you don't? You see, the thing about it is we have gradation of worth, right? And I've written several articles called Assert Your Worth. You know, we kind of look down at the garbage man or the guy who's sweeping the floor or sweeping the streets until they're not there. And when the garbage man is not there and your garbage becomes smelly and it starts to cause disease, then suddenly we realize how important that job that we consider lowly really is. So I mean, the disparity that we have between wages between a garbage man, let's say, and a journeyman who, okay, he went 2 years for school. Yes, he deserves a premium. A doctor went 8 years for school. Yeah, they deserve a premium. An engineer went 4 years to school, 6 years sometimes. They deserve a premium for that extra effort that they've made. But that premium shouldn't be an inordinate amount that makes it so that creates the kind of wealth disparity that we have. It just shouldn't be. We give ourselves too much credit for certain types of professions. Look, I'm an engineer by training. I love that engineers make good money. But do I think we deserve the money up and above what my garbage men get? In the past, I would say yes, because I studied so hard for 4 years. So I'm going to study very hard for 4 years and then exist for another 60 years. And that 4 years of studying tells me that I'm much better than that garbage man for the rest of my life and for the rest of his life by that much more. There's an ethical issue there. There's really an ethical issue. And I know it's hard to say, because people say, well, if you don't do that, a lot of people won't work towards these professions. Well, let the market decide, right? I mean, the truth of the matter is in New York, janitors make a whole lot of money. Some of them make more than teachers, So, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that we have to look into here. But anyhow, let me go ahead and see if there's anything for me to cover off of the webpage, because, sometimes I'm a bad person and I let that go for a bit too long before I start getting into it. So bear with me as I bring that baby up. And let's see what we have here. Okay, we have Matthew Tiemann. Price control in the products and services in healthcare is essential. For profit, healthcare kills people. Absolutely so. Price controls. I want price controls in healthcare. And not only that, I want doctors who get stipends to go to college. In other words, I want subsidized college for doctors so that they don't feel they don't feel that they have to find a sickness in everybody that comes in, that maybe sometimes just taking an aspirin will do. I want to make sure that drug companies don't pilfer us as they do right now. A lot of the research done is done at universities, paid for by public dollars. And when that professor sees that he has something, monetizes it by forming a corporation and then making a profit. And you know what? None of that profit goes to the government, who originally provided the seed money to build these things. So, I mean, we have to be fair. All right, let's see. Michael Rudden, what the heck? This is so wrong, and it's going to, yes, it's wrong about the price, about the individual mandate. Yes, he knew what he was doing, and Marco Rubio knew what it was as well. That's what you put in there, Rudden in. Michael Rubio knew exactly what he was voting for. But you see, what he wants to do is, it's always the case. We take care of the donors first. And then we talk about how unfair something is later on. That is not how it is supposed to run. Egberto, I hope you cover the history of corporations. I read that's a good piece that you have there. Folks that are in there, take a look at the piece that Michael Rudden found. That's a good article there called Our Hidden History of the Corporation. Corporations used to be charters, right? They will be charters for X amount of years to do some public good. And when that public good was complete, they would charter themselves out of existence, and all the capital that's left within that corporation would be split evenly among all the shareholders. That's what corporations used to be. They have now become an entity. They've now become an actual living being. I think it was Pacific Railroad versus Santa Clara or something like that, which started the drive to make corporations people. So now corporations have the kind of rights that you as a person has. Crazy, isn't it? The reality is they have more rights because they have unlimited money. And there's there is Citizens United, and then there's Macroper. I don't remember the other Supreme Court case that further codifies it. Thanks again, Bruce Pollard, for letting us know that 3.8 trillion is our budget, and that 2.5% of our budget is what Apple gave away. Let's see. Michael Rudname, the profit motive drains resources out of the healthcare system. Of course. And it's also dangerous, right? A lot of people don't see it. I mean, I like to hear when Bill Maher talk about we don't have a sick system. We have a system. Hi, Dale Ritchie. Welcome aboard. We have a system. McCutcheon. Thank you very much. It's McCutcheon. The Supreme Court case. We have a system that depends on people being sick, because the more people are sick, the more money that the people who are providing that service, which is purchased by shareholders, so they want their profit out of whatever it is the product is, and they consider you the raw. They consider you the raw material for their product. Sick people become the raw material for the capitalists. Remember that. So therefore, it is in their interest to find you sick. It is in your interest to keep you sick. So we have industries, people go ahead and they invest in the alcohol industry, they invest in the drug industry, they invest in all these industries. So you turn into an alcoholic, then you have to go get cured from alcoholism. And, so there's some investment there. And then after you're gotten cured from alcoholism, maybe you pick up another habit. You have a whole lot of pain. So you start going to get your Oxycontin and all these other pills. They're very happy to sell it to you. You become addicted to that. Then you need to get the Metrodome to go ahead and get you hooked off of. I mean, look, it's a corrupt system designed to make the average American citizen the raw material. And in that raw material, you provide all the income to these companies. Now, if it were a socialized medical system, there is no interest in you being sick, right? Because there's no profit motive, so there's no reason to keep you sick. The least amount of, as we can keep less people sick, it costs the entire project less. But in the for-profit system, we need to keep you sick so that we can continue to make income. You have to realize it's a two different way of thinking about it. In a single payer system, in a single payer Medicare for all system, the incentive is for you not to be sick. The incentive is for them to say, stop smoking, stop drinking. We want you to exercise. We want you to do all those things. In a for-profit healthcare system, we want you to drink. We want you to smoke. We want you not to exercise. We want you to have fat liver. Why? Because we need a commodity, or we need a product to sell. And we can only sell that product if there's a need. And there's only a need if you get sick. In the socialized system, we say, wow, if you don't get sick, the taxpayer keeps more money. You can buy a whole lot of other things. You can go take a vacation. In a for-profit health system, no. We need you to get sick. Folks, you don't hear this on mainstream media, right? Because they have to sell the drugs. They have to sell all these things. Now, in the system that we want, in a Medicare for all system, it has to be a bit deeper than just Medicare for all. We also have to take care of doctors. We also have to train nurses. We also have to make it profitable, not profitable, but we have to make it economical for these people to go to school. There's no reason for them to go to school if it's going to cost them an arm and a leg on monies they can't recover because, again, it's too expensive. But here's the deal. Remember what I said we were going to talk about when we talk about what the tax cut scam is doing? Well, the tax cut scam, whereas we could have had loan forgiveness or loan adjustment for all those people that took out a hell of a lot of student loans to be teachers, professions that you can't recover that money. But also, you took out loans from the undeserving. Banks, they loan you money to go to school, a public good. Educating the body politic, educating the masses is a public good to ensure that the country moves on. And who profits from that again? If you don't have the money to pay your college right up front, who profits from that? Yet again, the bankers, they profit again, and again for a public good, for a public service, for something that belongs in the common. What else? What else, absent that tax cut scam, could we have done? Absent the tax cut scam, that money could have been invested in healthcare reform. In what forms? It could have been invested into creating a public option to the Affordable Care Act. And that would have brought down the cost of a lot of different policies. Did we do that? No, we didn't. Why didn't we do that? Again, because we only take care of those that pay the politician to do what they need to do. So, folks, we have to understand how this materially affects people. Let's go with another item. We talk about a lot of people having to pay for daycare for their kids. I was sitting down at a Starbucks with a guy. He's a professor at the university. His wife is an elementary school teacher. Two professionals, good jobs. They have student loans to pay. They have 4 kids. They have a mortgage. And then they have to put their kids into daycare. Some people, according to Bruce Pollard, some people who invest their profits in their kids' education. Exactly, Bruce. Exactly. But anyhow, so this couple says it's like having two mortgages now, right? Because now they have to pay for their kids, taking care of their kids, so that they can go to work. So here it is, two people who took noble professions that moved the country forward because they're educators, but now have to pay an inordinate amount of money for health care, an inordinate amount to get their kids daycare, an inordinate amount of money for a mortgage with a fairly high interest rate relative to others. That tax cut scam, instead of giving that money to a whole lot of people who don't need it, who already took a bigger share of the economy than they deserve, why not invest it into professions by giving these people tax breaks, tax abatements, rebates for doing the right thing, becoming teachers, for doing the right thing? Why not? So those are what we call, there are things in economy, there's this stuff called opportunity cost. What opportunity have you lost because of what you did? And there was a whole lot of lost opportunity. So as a homework for everybody listening to this show, go ahead and think about all the different things that the government could have assisted with. I'm not talking about giveaways. I'm talking about things that the government could have better invested the money in that would have made your life, your individual life, those people that are listening to this show, what are the things that would have made your life better? Because I tell you what, for all those people that got the tax break, the $100 billion that what's his name from Apple is going to give back to his people, none of that is going back into the economy. So therefore, it is just money that came back from overseas. Those rich people, there's this stuff in economics also called the marginal propensity to consume. What that is if I get an additional dollar, what do I do with it? If I'm a poor person, if I'm broke, if I don't have a lot of money and I get an additional dollar, I spend it. It goes directly into the economy. If Jeff Bezos, the richest person on the planet, gets an additional dollar, he throws it into the bank. It doesn't do any work. It doesn't circulate. Why? Because he doesn't need it. He has all the money he needs already. Okay, Tim Cook. Thank you. Tim Cook is the chairperson of Apple. Thank you very much, Michael. You see, I have some great listeners here. Okay, Michael Rudden also says, I believe in freedom education covered by tax dollars as well as the forgiveness of all public student loans. I actually believe in not only public student loans. I think if you can forgive public student loans, I think again, this is important, right? I think forgiving public student loans should be no different than forgiving private student loans. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's money that's been paid out. So it means going to these private companies and say, okay, here is the money for closing out all these different accounts, period. Yes, that can be done. That should be done. And you know what would happen immediately? You would get a huge economic boon. And let me tell you why you'll get a huge economic boon from doing that. Because all those people that were spending money to give it back to bankers and the investors of those banks who are already rich and don't spend money, they will immediately go out there and buy a home. They would immediately go out there and buy more clothes. They'll immediately go to more restaurants. It would be an economic boon that would partially pay for recovery. But these guys aren't rocket scientists. They don't see it. They simply see that they have you on the hook and they want that sure interest rate that they know you're giving them. Okay, Michael says, you're describing the velocity of money. That's exactly what it is. The velocity of money. Poor people spend all the money which goes back into the economy. Rich people just put it up. That is exactly right. Let's see what else I've missed. If I missed anything from anybody. Para ver. I think I pretty much covered everything. Folks, look, we can make this change, right? This change requires that we stay engaged, but it also requires that we educate. It's not enough to just sit back and listen to folks that are talking the same things that you like to hear. It's not enough for you to listen and say, oh, yes, I agree with you. I know what you're saying is right. None of that is enough. You truly have to go out there and make the case. When you're in a grocery store and you see somebody saying something that is silly, nicely says, well, but this is how things are, and ask them questions. Don't go out there and be a genius that knows it all. Ask them questions. Don't you think if we did this, it would make your life better? And let them answer the questions, because a lot of times when they answer the question, they will give the progressive answer, and that progressive answer represents the type of electorate that we want to have. And once we do that, we start making a change, and then we can start specifying the particular politicians that will make that difference. Folks, we have to start it, and it has to start with you. You're the one that's going to make the difference. What we're doing here at Politics Done Right, what they're doing at Daily Coast, what they're doing at Op-Ed News, what they're doing at Democratic Underground, what they're doing at Coffee Party USA, what they're doing at all these, at the Majority Report, at the Young Turks. We are subsets of the independent media making a difference. We cannot go on air where several million people see us at once. In the case of this show, we'll have several thousands who will see this show. In the case of TYT, maybe several tens of thousands will see the show. In the case of Daily Coast, several hundred thousands will read those posts that we put out there every day. But they have to stay in existence. We have to keep them alive. So what I tell you is, I don't ask you for anything that I don't already do. As an example, I am a subscriber to the Democratic Underground.com. I'm a subscriber and a writer for dailycoast.com. I'm a contributing editor for dailycoast.com. Likewise, I'm a contributing editor and a subscriber, meaning I give them money as well, to opednews.com. I'm also a subscriber to coffeepartyusa.com. A subscriber as well, like I said, to my local Democratic Party and sometimes to my state Democratic Party. And there are others that I can't remember right now, but I see on my credit card every single month that I subscribe to these different progressive rags, because it's important. We have to keep them alive. And it's not about giving one person giving a whole bunch. It's about hundreds, thousands given small amounts, very small amounts. And the reason we do that is because that is the only way we're going to make change. So as I end my program, I ask for you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. One more time, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. And please go ahead and help us keep these programs alive. Please go ahead and help keep these programs alive. It is important that you support us. It is very important that you support us, because absent that, our reach diminishes. We can't do what we have to do. We can't monitor what we have to monitor, and they win. So I ask you again, humbly, to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. If you're on Facebook Live, it's right there on the link. If you're listening to this on a podcast, just find us at Politics Done Right on Facebook, Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies on Facebook, and you can click on that link and go to Patreon, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and support the show. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Thank you so kindly for spending this time with me. We will continue this. We have some interviews tomorrow on Politics Done Right at KPFT. We have some great folk, including one person from the Netherlands. It's going to be a great show. So please tune in tomorrow as well. This is Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies. Thank you so kindly for having been with me. And I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.